go.
Taanis. Test, test. We may not decree upon a community a fifth series of fasts commencing on Thursday, so as not to cause a rise in the market prices. Rather, the first three fasts on Monday, Thursday, Monday, the second three on Thursday, Monday, Thursday. Rabbi Yossi says, just as the first three fasts are not to commence on Thursday, so too neither the second three fasts, neither the final, nor the final seventh fast may commence on Thursday. We may not decree a community fast on Rosh Chodesh, Chanukah, or Purim. However, if they already had commenced a series of fasts, they may not interrupt. This is the opinion of Rabbi Gamliel. Rabbi Meir says, although Rabbi Gamliel said they may not interrupt the series, he agrees that they should not complete the fast. The same is true of Tisha B'Av, which falls on the eve of Shabbos. The order of the fast mentioned above applies only if the first rain was withheld. However, if plans change abnormally, we sound the shofar at once because of them. Similarly, if rains were interrupted between one rain and the next for 40 days, we sound the shofar at once because this represents a calamity of food shortage. Okay.
Okay. Carrying on the series of calamities that cause the invocation, so to speak, of the um, uh, of the serious fast days, immediately skipping straight to the serious fast days. Yardu litzmachin aval lo yardu li'ilan. So if you have rains that were only good for crops but not good for trees, in other words, just a very soft rain. So the soft rains are good for the crops and not so much for the trees. Le'ilan v'lo litzmachim, and the hard rains only came down and they were not good for the crops, only good for the trees. Lazeh v'lazeh aval lo laboras v'lashichin lamaras. So it fell for the crops, but basically the all the wells and the cisterns and all the things for drinking water were not filled up. Masriyan aleihin miyad. Then in this case, then they go straight to the panic stations that the rains have not provided the required relief. Geen eer shelo yardu aleha geshamim. You have one isolated city where the rain specifically did not fall. Everywhere else it's been falling, but this one particular city it hasn't fallen. Kakasuv. So as the Navi Amos says, V'him tarti al ir echas al ir achas lo amtir. I'll rain on one city and not on the one next to it, basically. Chalaka achas timater. Chelka achas timater. So it's only when you have a very clear differentiation between town to town as to whether they're getting rain or not. That's a siman klala on the town that's not getting the rain, and that immediately. Osa ha'ir misane u misras. That town over there must immediately start fasting and blowing shofar the whole 9 yards. But the other towns around it, they should fast on their behalf, but they don't need to go into the shofar blasts. So it must be treated like a sort of a Tisha B'av day,
Mhm.
a fasting day, but there's no blowing of shofar in the towns that are not directly affected. Rabbi Akiva says chiluf. He says the other way around. Masrios v'lo misanos, that they should blow the shofar. They don't need to fast because they aren't affected, but nonetheless they should blow shofar as a in order to bring Hashem's rachamim on their neighboring city. Mishnah Daled v'chein ir sheyesh ba dever or mapolis. What happens if you have a plague or mapolis is a landslide or an
Just
earthquake?
collapse of buildings. So same as with landslide.
Yeah,
Collapse of building.
collapse of buildings. Or Saha'ir misane masras. So that particular city that was affected, they have to fast and blow shofar. Blow, actually it's the trumpets more than the shofar. The trumpets are for calamities like that. V'chol svivoseha misanos ve'lo masrios. So the surrounding towns should fast on their behalf but not blow shofar. Rabbi Akiva Meir masrios ve'lo misanos. Same machlokes as the previous Mishnah, where Rabbi Akiva says that the surrounding towns have a um, the surrounding towns must blow shofar rather than fasting. Okay.
Mhm.
Ezehu dever. So what do you classify as a dever? What's a plague that you'd have to do this fasting for? I mean, people die all the time. You don't proclaim a citywide fast just because some people have died. So you got to have a clear definition of what is a dever. Ir hamotziah chamesh me'os ragli. If you've got a city that's got a population of 500, ויצאו ממנה שלושה מתים בשלושה ימים זה אחר זה. And from that population of 500, three people died on consecutive days. Now now you look at that percentage, it's not a very high percentage.
Right.
Um, but that's for a town of 500. And presumably if you've got a thousand, then you're going to need to have two people dying a day for three consecutive days. So that because otherwise you're just playing into statistics. I mean, if you're in a large city, there are people dying all the time. You're not that, and we don't. Is it all depends on the proportions of the people. Um, let's see if there's anything else here. Okay, that's called a dever. בשלושה ימים זה אחר זה. פחות מכאן אין זה dever. If the numbers are fewer than this, or even if you have two mesim on 3 days, or three mesim in 2 days even, that's not considered a dever. It's got to be specifically on three consecutive days.
Right. Okay.
And that is our official definition of a fast of a plague that is going to invoke the city to start fasting.
I don't see anywhere in the commentary does it mention trumpets rather than shofar. It doesn't mention anything about unless I missed it
Well,
somewhere.
we actually did that as sort of first principles when we were talking about first of all in Rosh Hashanah.
Mm.
When you're blowing shofar on Rosh Hashanah, it's the shofar is the ikar and the chatzotzras are the tafel. So when they used to blow with shofar and trumpets together,
Right.
the shofar would last longer. The trumpets would just be on the side.
Okay.
Remember, we
I
were having
remember.
this discussion like, whoa, I can't believe that actually blow trumpets. Like we're telling all the kids to go shh shh while we blow the shofar. But we
Right.
said that it was the reverse when it comes to fast days, that the ikar is the chatzotzras, not the shofar.
Okay. All right. Let me
Okay.
just mark the place. Okay. Mark this. Okay. Good. Okay. And we are now on to Rosh Hashanah. Okay. Dalit Dalit. Originally, they accepted testimony regarding the new moon all day. Once the witnesses were delayed in arriving and the Levium blended in the daily hymn, so they ordained that they accept the new moon testimony only until the Mincha, and that if witnesses come from the Mincha onward, that they should be kept holy, and the next day should be kept holy. After the temple was destroyed, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai instituted they accept the new moon testimony all day. Rabbi Shua ben Karka said this too did Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai institute that even if the head of the Bezdin should be in another place, the witnesses should go only to the place of the assembly. This is the order of the blessing. He recites the blessing called patriarchs, the blessing called powers, the blessing called holiness of the name, and includes the kingship verses with them. But the person designated to blow does not blow the shofar. He recites the blessing of the holiness of the day and blows, remembrance and blows, shofars and blows. Then he recites the blessing of the sacrificial service, the blessing of thanksgiving, and the blessing of Kohanim. These are the words of Yochanan ben Nuri. Says Rabbi Akiva to him, if he does not blow the shofar at the blessing of kingship, why does he mention it? Rather, he recites the blessing of the patriarchs, powers, and the holiness of the name, and then he includes kingship with the blessing of the holiness of the day and blows, remembrance and blows, shofars and blows. Then he recites the blessing of the sacrificial service, the blessing of thanksgiving, and the blessing of the Kohanim. They recite no fewer than 10 kingship verses, then 10 remembrance verses, then 10 shofar blows verses. From Yochanan ben Nori says if he recited 3 verses from each of them, he has discharged his obligation. They should not recite any verse of remembrance, kingship, or shofar, which alludes to punishment. He begins with verses from the Torah and concludes with verses from the prophets. Rabbi Yossi says if he concluded with verses from the Torah, he has discharged his obligation. Okay.
Okay.
Now into Sukkah. Okay, Sukkah, test 12. A woman may accept a lulav from her son or her husband and return it to the water on the Sabbath. Rabbi Yehuda says on the Sabbath we return it, on the festival we add water, and during the intermediate days of the festival we change the water. A minor who knows how to wave is obligated to take the lulav. The mitzvahs of lulav and the willow branch are performed 6 or 7 days. The resuscitation of challah and the mitzvah of rejoicing are performed 8 days. The mitzvahs of sukkah and the water libation are performed 7 days, and the flute is played 5 or 6 days. How is the mitzvah of lulav performed 7 days? If the first day of the festival falls on Shabbos, the lulav is taken 7 days. If it falls on any of the other days, it is taken 6 days.
Okay. Erevin.
Okay, Zion Vav. How do we make a shittuk for an alley? One places a
Wait,
barrel and
wait, no,
decants.
hold on a second. I think we should be on Ches. Let me just check that out. Am I wrong?
Um, I'm probably wrong. Yeah, okay. If a haystack between 2 yards is 10 feet high,
Oh,
they may
just
make two arrows.
hold on a second.
No, I
Uh,
went to hay. I went
Ches.
to hay. Wait.
Sein Ches.
Okay, so here we go. What is quantity? When there are numerous, food for 2 meals for all of them. When there are few, the volume of a dried fig, and in the case of transferring the Sabbath for each and every one. So Rabbi Yoshi said, to what do these words apply? To the installation of the Erev, but to remember to the Erev any amount. For they only required an Erev in courtyards, not to let the children forget. Any food may be used any food may be used to make an Erev or a shituf, except water or salt. These are the words of Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Yeshua says, if a loaf is an Erev, even if he baked it from a saw, but it is broken, it may not be used for an Erev. A loaf worth an Issa, but that which is whole may be used for an Erev. A person may give a mat
That's
to a
it.
grocer.
That's it. We're done.
Is it?
Yeah.
No pens for it.
Okay. Demai. Dalatai.
If one designated true Misa of the Maya of the Maya, Misa Ani of the definitely defined produce, we may not take them on the
Hold
Sabbath. If a priest,
hold on. Mishnah Hay.
I skipped. I skipped. I just say, hey, I started with all right. Ah, my eyes. If one says to one who is not trustworthy enough to regard the mitzvahs, buy from me from one who is trustworthy and from whom who tithes, he is not trusted. From so and so he is trusted. If he went to buy from him and he said to him, I did not find him, and he bought for you from another who is trustworthy, he is not trusted. One who enters a city and knows no one there and says, who is trustworthy here? He separates the tithes here. Who separates the tithes here? A person said to him, I. He is not to believe. If he said to him, so and so is trustworthy, he may be believed. If he went to buy from him and said to him, who sells here? Who sells old? He said to him, the one who sent you to me. Though they may appear to be exchanging favors, they may be believed. Uh, if junkie drivers enter the city and one said, mine is new, but my friend's is old, mine is not tithe, but my friend's is tithe, they are not believed. And Yehuda says they are believed.
Okay. Kalem.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Uh, Dalit. Rum regarding a pot that is placed in the oven. If a sheretz is in the oven, the pot is sour. An earthenware vessel does not render utensils tummy. If there was in the pot a beverage sufficient to moisten, the beverage becomes tummy and transmitted tumor. Thus, this pot says, that which made you tummy did not make me tummy, and yet you have made me tummy. Regarding a chicken that swallowed sheretz and then fell into the airspace of an oven, the oven is tar, where the chicken died, the oven is tummy. If a sheretz was found in an oven, the bread that is in the oven becomes a sheni tuma, for the oven is the starting level of tuma. Regarding a leaven container that is surrounded by a sealed cover and placed into an oven, if leaven and the sheretz are in it and the dividing wall is between them, the oven is tummy, but the leaven is tahu. And if there was a olive vine piece from a corpse, the oven and everything in it, the house of tummy, but the leaven is tahor, and that is an opening of one tefach, everything is tummy. Okay. And
Basra.
Vav, vav, vav. One who enters a garden behind the garden of another enters when people ordinarily enter and leaves. When people ordinarily leave, he may not bring merchants into it, or nor may he enter into it from another field. And the owner of the outer one may plant the path. If they assign him a path on the side by mutual consent, he may enter whenever he wishes and leave whenever he wishes, and he may bring merchants into it. However, he may not enter into another field that neither is permitted to plant it. If someone had a public thoroughfare passing through his field and he appropriated it and gave them another one on the side, what he has given is given, but it does not become his. A private path is 4 cubits wide, a public thoroughfare is 16 cubits wide. The king's thoroughfare is no limit, and the path of a grave is no limit. A halting place, the judges and Tapori said, an area of 4 chavs. If one sells a place to another to make a catacomb for him on it, and if separately one accepts a contract from another to dig a catacomb for him, he makes the inside of the crypt 4 cubits by 6, and he opens 8 recesses into it, 3 on each side and 2 on the opposite side. The recesses must be 4 cubits long, 7 handbreadths high, and 6 handbreadths wide. Reb Shimon says he makes the inside of the crypt 6 cubits by 8 and opens 13 recesses into it, 4 on each side, 3 on the opposite side, 1 to the right of the entrance and 1 to the left. He makes a curate at the entrance to the crypt, 6 by 6, sufficient space for the bier and those who bury it. He opens 2 crypts into it, 1 on each side. Reb Shimon says 4, 1 on each of his 4 sides. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says all according to the nature of the rock. Okay.
That's
Okay.
it. All
Have a
right.
great day.
You too.
Enjoy.
Good
I'll
day.
see you tomorrow, Mr. Shem. Thank you. Bye.